Thanks a lot, Game and Shout. I got to point out, by the way, you're doing really awesome at hosting. Anyway, I'm Keyzeron. Hello, AGDQ 2022 online. I'm joined by SharkHat87. Do you mind if I call you just Shark for short?
That's perfect. Yeah.
All right, perfect. Well, Shark, how are you feeling right now?
I'm doing good. Honestly, I'm a little bit nervous, but I'm sure once I get started with my run later, I'll be totally fine. I'm not too worried about it. It's practice has been really good recently, so I
Yeah,
think it's gonna be good.
I'd imagine the nerves are a pretty prevalent thing because as we were talking about, you've been at a GDQ before on commentary, specifically for Dead Space 1, but this is your first actual GDQ run. So how are you feeling about that?
I'm super excited. Put a ton of work in along with the whole community in this game the past couple of years since I joined. So I'm mostly just excited to show all this crazy stuff. I know I have some friends watching too that know I do this but haven't actually seen the run before. So I'm hoping they're also surprised by some of the tricks and stuff they'll be doing.
Now, speaking of work, I want to emphasize to everyone at home that you've put in a lot of work, especially because you were telling me that you went through an injury that actually kind of slowed down your progress with the game.
Yeah. So what happened was it was the summer of 2020 because I started playing in May of 2020, and I developed a repetitive strain injury in my forearms, and so it's fully healed now, pretty much. But even like almost somewhat recently, it was still giving me problems. I'd have to take breaks to stretch or sometimes not play for as long. So it was tough because we'd be in all these Discord calls like labbing strats and like doing runs and stuff. And sometimes I'd have to kind of like take a break and be like, I really want to do this, but I gotta like recover too. And it took a while, but I'm finally sort of like back into the swing of things, fortunately.
It's good news to hear, and it's also a good reminder to everyone at home that like just if you feel something's up, just be sure to take care of yourself because even though it might feel like you're just playing a game and it's speed running, health is still really important. So, stretches, stay hydrated, so on and so forth. Now, before we get into the meat and potatoes of your Dead Space 2 run, I just want to go through a list real quick here. And I just
Okay.
kind of want to like figure out like what the attachment is here. So SpongeBob SquarePants,
Uh-huh.
Fairly Odd Parents,
Yep.
Alien, Outlast, Dead Space. Two of those don't really fit in. So what happened here? What happened from Nickelodeon to horror games?
Well, so it's funny. So yeah, Battle for Bikini Bottom was the first speedrun I like tried to learn. I actually started trying to learn it like 2017, never finished it, but I just happened to see the run and thought it was super cool. It's just a super fun platformer. So I was playing that a little bit, and then like when I started speedrunning in like 2020, I'd started. I guess I sort of started Dead Space 2 and that around the same ish time. But yeah, no, for me, I like horror games. They're some of my favorite games, but I also like platformers. So honestly, that's kind of where it comes into play. But sometimes it's just I'd see a game, and even if it's sort of like even if it's like a silly license game or a AAA horror game or whatever, if it seems like a fun run or it's like fun to play, I'll pick it up. I have some the Fairly Odd Parents one. I have some friends who run Outlast that also ran that game, and I saw them run it, and I was like, what is this game? And they're telling me, oh, well, it actually is a pretty sick speed game, and it's got a lot of tech and all this stuff. And then so I try it out and do some runs. And
Now let's go ahead and pivot back to Dead Space 2, and the series, the game as a whole. There's been a huge record improvement, and I'd imagine that we're going to see a lot of the like big tricks and skips that led to that. But do you kind of want to talk about like how much the record has shifted and like what the run looks like that we're going to see today?
Yeah, so to keep it brief, when the game first came out, it was a little over 2 hours, and then by the time the end of 2019 rolled around, the first sub 2 happened, which was it was a 158. Well, we do a little bit of a retime because of the intro cutscene, so it's a 154 now. But essentially, it was the first sub 2 in November of 2019, and now the record is a 104.41. So in the past 2 years, it has just gotten blown wide open. I mean, there were not to say, I mean, there were a lot of tricks. It got cut
Sure.
to get cut down below 2 hours. It still had to, there still had to be a lot of discoveries and things. But yeah, there's been a lot of activity recently. Found a ton of new tech. Some of the most broken stuff involves deloading the level, and there's all kinds of like floor clipping with enemies, all these kinds of things, physics-based glitches that we've discovered since then. And yeah, it went all the way. It improved by about 50 minutes in that time. It's just been insane to see that rapid growth. We go through periods of time where it's like every day we're finding something, and then for a few months it's kind of stable for a bit, and then we think, okay, well, there's no way we'll get sub 130 though, and then it blows up again, and then it's like, I swear, I think 120 was like the peak. Like you couldn't get 119. It wasn't going to happen. That was like last March. And then over the summer, we found 3 huge tricks, and I think we went through the 110s in like a month, and then it was 109, and we thought, that's insane. And then since the summer, we've been grinding it down from 109 all the way down. Now it's 104. Yeah.
That's incredible to see that progress. Before we sign off and send it back to Mr. Game and Shout, I do have one last question for you, and it's kind of a combination. Right. One, it has to do with the hat on your head, and 2, it has to do with the username. I gotta know. Just give me a rapid fire 15-second answer. I gotta know. Shark Hat, why?
All right. So 7th grade, went to Universal, went on the Jaws ride, which isn't there anymore, but they had these shark hats, and I got it. And I guess at the time, I just thought it was the coolest thing ever, and I just ended up making it my, screen name and that kind of thing, and it kind of just stuck around since then.
Well, perfect. Thanks a lot for taking part in this interview, Shark. I'm Keysron again. Don't forget, tune in later to watch Shark Hat's run of Dead Space 2. But for now, I'm going to send you all back up to the front, and we're also going to see TGH play a game, I guess. Bye, everyone.
With that, I think we're ready for our next run. Now, you've met him in an interview, you've seen his awesome hat. Now it's time for the any percent run of Dead Space 2 by none other than the well-named Shark Hat 87. Take it away.
All right, welcome everybody. I am Shark Hat 87. I am joined by
Sir Kyle 95
and can the rest of my couch introduce themselves?
Yeah, and I'm Waifu.
And I'm Living Minibon.
All right. Well, we got a little bit of a cutscene at the very beginning of the run, so we're going to go ahead and get started here. So, time is going to start when I select the difficulty right here. So, we want to do a countdown from 5? Sure. All right. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, go. All right. So, this is Dead Space 2, the sequel to Dead Space. Do you guys want to talk a little bit about the just general story of the game at the beginning here, while we're running through?
So Isaac escaped from all the zombies of the first game. Then he got picked up and put in an insane asylum for a couple of years because he was a bit traumatized and stuff from the events of the first game. They used his knowledge to make another marker, which made more zombies, and now he wakes up in an insane asylum and has to try and basically get out and figure out what's going on.
Objective survive, literally.
Pretty much.
Yeah, in the first part of the game, you start out in a straitjacket, so you can't even use your arms, you can't interact with anything. You're just trying to run and not die.
Yeah. The main objective at the beginning is to just get cut out of the straitjacket, because we can't really do, like they said, they can't really do anything until they do that.
Thankfully, Isaac is Space MacGyver, so he doesn't even need his hands. He'll be fine.
Yes, Isaac is an engineer, which means that he knows everything and can do everything.
Exactly.
One of the great engineers in gaming. There are many. Isaac is definitely up there.
And so not too much happens during this first part of the game. We have some cutscene coming up. The guy named Edgar, he's going to cut us out of the straitjacket, and then right after that, we'll start getting into some of the first small glitches at the beginning of the game. So now we're going to just sit here and watch this cutscene.
This cutscene gets memed a lot in the Dead Space speedrunning community, just because of how many times you see it, and it's in every single category too, so you can't escape it.
We have not found a way around this cutscene. You just have to watch it every time. And since it's right at the beginning of the game, you see it a lot every time you reset.
It used to be a lot worse. We used to also watch a 3-minute and 40-second intro cutscene before you gain control. But thankfully, we've made some mods to make it so that you don't have to do that every reset. But you still gotta watch this one.
Yeah, I suppose we didn't mention that, but the way that works is when you start the game, there's a value in memory that sets your new game checkpoint. So we just set that to be the one right after the cutscene.
Because we didn't start time until you gain control of Isaac anyway, and you don't gain control of Isaac until after that really long cutscene. So we figured there was no point in sitting there watching it every time.
Yes. Also, we could have soft locked the game in about the first 7 seconds if an enemy knocks a certain chair over in the doorway. Fortunately, it didn't happen. I wasn't going to mention it unless it happened. No, it didn't happen, so we're good.
Yeah, there are a lot of problems that you will run into in this game with just items getting in your way. Like the collision in this game can be a little weird sometimes, and it's very easy to get stuck in just really weird spots. Yeah.
So Edgar's cut us out of the straitjacket, and he's given us the flashlight. So the flashlight turns into your gun later on, but the flashlight's actually really broken, and you'll see that in a bit coming up. But first, we got a little bit more dialogue and this elevator.
Just doing some melee cancels to pass the time.
Yeah, this game is very much a cinematic, like, on-rails experience, and we even selected the casual difficulty, so this might be a pretty casual stroll, but this game is broken. Like, 90% of the tricks and skips are there to skip unskippable cutscenes and big dialogue sequences and stuff like that.
First little trick there, he actually boosted up over the tables, and now he's going to open up the restore health tutorial that he got when he picked up the flashlight. So what happens is, if you open the restore health tutorial in chapter 1, it spawns a second flashlight over at the locker where you initially picked it up, and you can pick it up from any range. And when you pick it up, it will cancel whatever animation you're currently in and like give you another flashlight. Unfortunately, we can't use it too much because it'll get rid of kinesis once we get kinesis, but it's really handy to skip a few cinematics, and he'll be doing it again in a second.
I'll let you see how it breaks the camera on this one, so we have to checkpoint restart. I'll let you see that here. So
yeah, it's called flashlight duplication, and those are the only 2 times that we do it.
Yeah, unfortunately we can't use it after chapter 1 because you can only do it while chapter 1 is still loaded, and also it breaks kinesis, so that is
and you need kinesis
pretty
to
important.
progress.
Yes.
So,
Yeah.
speaking of kinesis, he's getting it here. This lets you pick up items and throw them. It's buffed in Dead Space 2 compared to the first game. Now you can pick up spikes and throw them at enemies, and it deals a lot of damage, and that's pretty crucial to killing some enemies. But there's not a lot of combat in this run, as you'll see.
Yeah, there are some combat rooms, and they tend to be pretty difficult to optimize, but there's not a ton of them. They're pretty spread out. Waifu, you want to go ahead and start explaining stasis skip here?
Okay, so this skip is really cool. There's a lot of those big unskippable cutscenes in this area, and even a section where it's RNG, where the enemies come out of, and you gotta kill them all while you're waiting for a guy Strauss to open a door for you. And but we're just gonna skip all of that because this game is super broken. So basically, he pushed this enemy with kinesis into the next room, and his AI just completely breaks because he's not supposed to be in this room ever. So he's just gonna AFK there and stand there. And Sharkhat's gonna open the door next to him, and the door is gonna stay open because the enemy is in the doorway. And the way that this game loads in what area you're supposed to be on is dependent on the doorways, because the entire world is on one map, so you can technically go anywhere in the game from the same world space. So the way that it deals with that, not having too much information loaded, especially for running on like PS3s and stuff way back in the day, is that each doorway barricades the loading. So when a door closes, the stuff behind that door deloads. And so there's 3 levels of deloads. Currently, he's in a fully loaded room. That's a level 1 load. Then, when the door behind the door that is closed, there's a level 2 load, which you're about to see in just a second. And you can break the order of the game's loading by doing stuff like this. So because he had the other door open when it wasn't supposed to, it deloaded this section, and now he's going to be manually opening and closing doors so that he gets different levels of loads. So right now he's in a level 2 load. This means that the room still has collision and the doors still work, but everything is invisible. And right now he's in a level 1 load, but this door is deloaded. And so what he's gonna do is jump through the doorway, and he's gonna do a setup for a trick that I made here, and he's gonna do a door dive. So basically what this is, he's doing a very precise lineup, and he's gonna run into the black space of death. And he's gonna pause buffer the game and spam open door while facing the right direction. And since the doors are still loaded in this area, he's gonna hit the door frame of that door, and he's gonna open it. And when that happens, it loads the level into a level 2 load. So what was previously a level 3 load, which is completely deloaded, the only thing that is loaded is the doors and the checkpoint triggers, is now a level 2 load because he opened the door. So what you can do basically is from any point in the map, jump out of bounds at a precise angle and open a door as you're falling. And if you do it right, you'll load in the area around you. So he just skipped from grabbing the plasma cutter to all the way past all those force rooms, all the way past those cutscenes. He skipped stasis, So he's never going to get stasis for the rest of the run because he didn't get it. And a funny side effect that we didn't know for like a few weeks probably is that when you are in that room where you get the plasma cutter, the game actually gives you infinite ammo because it doesn't want you to soft lock. And since you never leave that room the intended way, we now have unlimited ammo for the rest of the game.
Kyle, you want to talk a little bit about what we just saw there?
Yeah, so what you just saw was we spliced the GDQ symbol into those monitors. Normally it's just supposed to be a picture of Tideman, who's the guy who's in charge of this space facility. But after many, many months of very laborious work, we managed to figure out how to replace the video in the game with whatever we wanted. So we can replace all the video logs that play on Isaac's suit, and we can replace a lot of the video logs that play up on walls and on televisions and stuff.
Yeah, so my brother figured that out.
Yeah, so we thought it would be a nice touch to just slide the GDQ logo into a few spots in the game.
Yeah. Also, as he comes out of this, as he comes out of this lift, this is the oldest out of bounds in the game. You boost up on a plant to get over that railing, and you can run across here and get to the checkpoint, which just skips some waiting for some dialogue and a fight sequence in a laundry room. It's pretty cool. It's been around since like 2014. It's a pretty old school one. It's the only one of the old school tricks that's still in the run, because the run has changed a lot, especially over the last like 2 years.
Yeah, it's crazy that this chapter hasn't really changed very much since 2014. Pretty much every other level in the game has gotten way faster. I mean, this room has gotten some strats. Like these, the way I'm killing some of these enemies here is a bit new. Oh, that's a new one. That's.
Would you say that's never happened before?
I would actually, yes. Oh, I need that, please. Did I actually? Okay, I did. So that was the way that second one was weird. I wasn't sure if he was dead or not. Okay.
Unintended, or one of the positive side effects of doing that big skip is we also skipped grabbing the suit, because there's no way to get to skip the animation of Isaac putting on the suit, and it's really, really long. But that means that we don't have a suit. So our damage resistance, I believe, is going to be a little bit lower, and our inventory space is going to be really small. But thankfully, we have unlimited ammo, and we're playing on the easiest difficulty. And there's not much combat, so it's really not going to matter that much.
Yeah, you'll see a lot of sort of weird graphical things happen where we're supposed to have a helmet right now, so whenever Isaac's talking to someone, his face just doesn't move at all. It's very, very deadpan expression. Or, for example, I'm going to be flying in a zero-G area here soon. You'll just see a bunch of, like effects coming out of his boots as if he's like flying through space, but it's just regular, good old hospital boots.
The other good thing that having a patient suit here for the rest of the game does is it gives us infinite air. So there's an air mechanic, like when you're flying out in space or in a depressurized room, you only have a limited amount of time before you suffocate. But in the patient suit, ironically, with no helmet and no pressure suit whatsoever, you have infinite air, because the game never expects you to ever go into space with the patient suit. So you don't have to worry about that suffocation mechanic at all.
Yeah, you can see the things coming out of his shoulders here, where the shoulder pads on his back would be.
It's always fun to look at.
Yeah.
If this is like, is Iron Man still a superhero without his suit? Maybe not. Isaac Clarke certainly still is, though.
Yes, he certainly is.
There we go. Okay.
The exploders, that's the enemy that Shark just killed. The exploders are probably one of the worst enemies in this game, because if they get anywhere near you, they will just insta-kill you with those exploding sacks. Yeah. Well, they won't insta-kill you on this difficulty, but they do an enormous amount of damage to you, and they'll knock you on the ground.
Very cool enemy design. Not so great for speedrunning. No. That's sort of a common theme in this game. A lot of the enemies, you gotta learn how to deal with them so they don't get in your way too much.
I would just like to say that this section happened in Dead Space before it did in Last of Us.
This is one of the more annoying fights to try and optimize in the run, just because of how much the controls move around, and the controls a little bit jank.
Yeah, you may not see it, but Isaac is constantly swinging back and forth, and he's having to compensate continuously for that swinging motion while he aims.
Yes.
It's a real pain.
Yeah. I would say this is a pretty good time to read a donation or two if you got some.
Absolutely. We have a pair here from someone named Sir Kyle95. They donate $25 and say, "So proud of you. Good luck on your run. Love, your brother." And they donated a second $25 just to say, "Sub 1 hour soon."
Thank you.
We also have $15 from Reset Praderas, who says, "First time donation. I love Dead Space. Hope everyone is having fun and let's stop cancer together. P.S. Great hat, smiley face."
Awesome. You got time for another one.
Will do. We have $15 from Lantern0315, who says, "Good luck in the run. I expect to see a PB this run by at least 10 minutes. Good luck. This $15 goes to Save the Necromorphs."
Thank you, Lantern.
I don't think these necromorphs can be saved. I think the Fortniters are not going to be allowed to take our V-Bucks this time.
Yeah. So the way this room works is that elevator over there is locked until you kill the last enemy. So we're just trying to do that as quickly as possible. But then if we get in the elevator, it gets to its destination and just sort of sits there until this dialogue's done. So I actually have some time to do some shopping here. And like we mentioned, I have infinite ammo, or infinite reloads rather, so I actually can't use ammo. It's basically just money at this point, so I just sell all my ammo at any opportunity. And I'm also picking up the javelin gun and the line gun. We're not going to be holding on to javelin for that long. It's really just for one fight. Makes it pretty quick. But the line gun is very broken. It's going to let us do a lot of... The alt fire on it, the timed mine is super busted.
Yeah, the alt fire for the line gun. Oh, wait. If you want to look at these billboards.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, if anyone saw the DS1 run, the line gun makes its triumphant return as a very broken weapon
Yes.
for doing out-of-bounds tricks.
Yeah.
Yeah, its alternate fire is it lets you place a timed mine, which sits on the ground, or it'll attach to any surface, including objects that you can pick up and move around. So there's a lot of things that you can break by doing that. And you can also clip it through walls, or through certain doors. You can launch time mines through doors into areas that you wouldn't otherwise be able to get into. And we exploit a little bit of that too.
Yeah. Yeah, these elevators in this game are weird too, by the way. I just wanted to mention. This one actually does go straight up, but most elevators in this game are sort of like the Willy Wonka elevator, where it just goes sideways, up and down, diagonally. It just kind of goes all over the place. It usually doesn't make much sense to where the game is trying to tell you that you're going. There's going to be one later where the character Dana is telling us you've reached the top of the church, but we actually go down to the lowest point of the entire level. So it's just kind of funny how that works out. Oh, I should mention here, so there's a few tricks in the game where we lower our FPS down to below 30. So we're going to be dropping to about 5 FPS for just a second or two, so don't worry, the stream is not lagging. That's all that's going on. It'll only be for a few seconds. It'll happen a few times in the run, I'll mention it. But using low FPS, we can do what's called a save station clip here. Almost fell there, okay. Alright, so we use that to skip a little fight and get into the 0G early. And then I'm gonna attempt to load this door in here, which is slightly faster than hitting the checkpoint. Alright, we got it. Nice.
You can see a good example of him opening the door to load in the level there. Because he just came out of the 0G and it opened, and he used spamming interact on scroll wheel on his mouse so that he could open the door before he fell past it. And if you do that too slow, then you'll get like stuck inside the floor and fall to your death and stuff. It's not free. Like you definitely can mess those up.
Yeah.
So it helps that the game will continue to load things even if you pause the game. So we do that a lot where we'll like cause something to start loading and then we'll pause the game so it loads around us so we don't like fly past it before it loads.
Yeah. And one thing to note about that trick is in regular speedruns we would actually hit the checkpoint and reload instead, and that's because the game's timed without loads. So obviously for the marathon we're doing a few things that are faster in real time because the load screens in this game take about 10 seconds. It's just a minimum. If it can quick load like it's going to here when I checkpoint restart, but if you get a long load, it's usually at least 10 seconds. So in that case, for this setting, it's faster for me to just open the door, and it looks cooler too, I think. So, speaking of deloading the level, we can call this elevator button from the outside, and it's going to deload the top floor, so we can just drop to the bottom, hit a checkpoint, and skip a little elevator ride.
Yeah. So like I said earlier, like those deloads. He was in a level 3 deload there, which means that there was nothing active except for the doors and the checkpoint triggers. but those things are pretty much always loaded. If you're even remotely close to an area, it's probably level 3 deloaded, which means that anywhere in the map where you can get close enough and you can get out of bounds, you can essentially sequence break to those areas as long as you can hit a door or a checkpoint trigger. And we're going to see that be used really huge here for what's called Chapter 4-5 skip, where we're going to be skipping from the very beginning of Chapter 4, which is going to start right now, all the way to like very deep into Chapter 5.
Yeah, so this skip is gonna make use of the line gun alternate fire clipping through a door.
Oh, well, I'm actually doing a slightly different. Well, I can show that one too, I guess.
Well, no, do it however you're gonna do it.
Okay.
I'll just adapt
so
what I'm saying.
this level is unique in the game in that it's built kind of like it's got these doors with fuses on them that you can break and use it to backtrack. But Shark's gonna use it by breaking the fuse through the door to be able to just skip ahead. So he's just going to try and get through this door here. The chapters are more like suggestions. The game loads stuff in big maps, and it usually loads more than one chapter at once. Sometimes it loads only one, but in this case, chapters 4 and 5 are loaded at the same time, which is why we can skip from chapter 4 into chapter 5. And chapter 5 is like literally just below this room. So he's going to get onto the table, which is going to push him through the floor, which will get him out of bounds, and he's going to climb up the wall to get on top of the map. And then he's going to do what's called a stomp launch, where if you stomp off the edge, you'll get more speed than just running off. And then he's going to do another door dive, where he interacts with the door and pauses the game to let the level load around him. And then, so now he's loaded into chapter 5 and skipped all of chapters 4 and pretty much all of chapter 5.
That's a really tough trick. That's probably one of the harder ones in the run. Oops. There we go.
And that table clip is especially difficult because when you climb on top of a table in this game, the game tries to push you off of it because it just doesn't like it when you're on top of the table. So we can use that to our advantage by flipping the table upside down. And then when the table tries to push you off of it, it clips you through the floor and you can drop below the map. But that particular table in chapter 4, when you climb on top of it, it likes to just shoot out from underneath you. So that's why if you noticed, he was trying to wedge the table into the corner of the room there and kind of fit it between one of that candelabra and the wall so that he could climb up on top of it and hold it with kinesis to give himself enough time to clip through the table and get through the floor without the table flying away.
Did you see that one guy in the bottom was trying to juke me? He kind of did jump in. So I thought I was about to shoot him, and then I was like, it looks like he's going to do something. So I waited, and he jumped, and then I slid down. So that room, if you do it fast enough, you can make pretty much the same cycle every time where they jump out of the same vent, so you can predict their movements. Sometimes they do weird stuff, but
very predictable.
Usually if you do it well enough, you can keep it up.
There's like nothing random in this game, by the way. There's only a couple things. One room right at the end of chapter 3 has some random enemy spawns, and the hack panels that Shortcat's going to be doing, those are random. But besides that, there's essentially no randomness like in the entire run. It's all execution.
Yeah.
And a lot of this game is really interesting because it has a really high skill floor, which means that if you want to do all of the tricks, hitting them all in a run, like in one run back to back with no mistakes, is really, really hard. But then after you do that, it becomes a lot about like small movement optimizations and making sure that like you hit your shots really fast in the rooms that it matters. So it's really interesting game like that.
Yeah, we end up just like fighting for seconds over these like 10-minute chapters.
Yeah. There's a lot of easier versions of tricks too. So it is actually like pretty easy to get into. Even though the skill floor at the highest level is pretty high.
Yeah, we have a whole Google Doc sheet that has color-coded spreadsheets and things that tells you, if it's your first run, learn this, these are world record strats, how much time they save, all that stuff. So I picked up a schematic for a gun we're going to buy in the next chapter, and for now, we get this twist, this little twist villain of the sort of first act of the game. So we're sitting in a bit of a cutscene here. So again, this would be a great time for some donations.
Absolutely. We have $50 from Holt, who says, "Let's go Shark. Greetings from Silent and me. We screwed up our sleep schedules to see her run. I donate $5 for every left-hand Larry's you get in Chapter 6, up to 5. For Looney, Chapter 10 for Looney, Chapter 10 safe station clip is called Boom Bada Bing Boom Clip. No further discussion. Smiley face. # we love you."
Thank you, Holden Silence.
And we have $25 from Topher Cakes, who says the real reason that Shark plays in the patient suit the whole time is because his skills are sick. I'll donate $25 more. I'll donate $25 more if you dab when you kill Tiedemann. Ooh.
All right, you got it.
We also have $50 from Z, who says Dead Space 2 is one of my favorite games of all time. Good luck. And a quick $5 from Lightstream Gray, who just says Pogo, all caps.
Pogo. Thank you. You got time for one or two more, I think?
Absolutely. We have $250 from Ninja Kid, who says, every year I'm inspired by the generosity and put in awe by the talent at AGDQ and the speedrunning community as a whole. So let's start the marathon and the year off strong. Hyped for Risk of Rain 2, It Takes Two, Dark Souls, and so much more. If we go fast and go far, we'll meet the end of cancer in no time. Cheers from Australia. And we have $250 from Sparrow the Spider, who says, a haiku. Make us whole, Isaac. Dead flowers are blooming now on Ishimura. Thank you for that lovely poem. Are there any other poets out there? Would love to see some more poetry in the donations. Time for...
All right, fantastic. Oh, sorry, one second. Thank you so much for the donations, everybody. We're going to be doing another trick right here called Tormentor Phase 2 skip. Let's see if I can get it first. Okay, first try, let's go. Nice. Okay, so that explosive on the ship is something you're supposed to shoot during the second phase of the fight, and it loads in the next level, but if you time your shot right, you can actually snipe it during the cutscene. Alright, sick.
This game is really cool. It's got so many things where it's like, we literally just sitting in the Discord like, hey, I wonder if this works, and you try it and it just does. Like that's a perfect example.
And also camera locks. Okay, we gotta wait for another minute here, so if you want to read a few more, this would be a good time too.
Definitely. We have $10 from Radish, who says, hello, Shark and Couch. A year and a half ago, I joined this community looking to speedrun Dead Space 2 and get my mind off of my depression and anxiety. I didn't know it at the time, but I would end up falling in love with the run and the community. I consider myself extremely lucky to be friends with everyone in the community, and am very glad that I have stuck with it since. Good luck on the run. I know you are going to kill it. Thank you for that sweet donation.
Thank you so much, Radish.
Thank you, Radish.
Thank you so much, man.
And we have $10 from Ultimate Draw, who says, I was always too afraid to play Dead Space when I was younger, but I think 10 years after the game's release, I should be able to handle it. Good luck to Shark Hat on the run. Money goes to Super Monkey Ball. And we're making some progress there, but we've got a long way to go. So chat, please keep those donations rolling in.
All right, so just like in Chapter 3, so this room is actually pretty much the same room as Chapter 3. So again, you can call the elevator from outside, but it's a little bit different because there's no checkpoint, so he has to make sure he falls into the level and then pauses so the level loads around him. And this room's on a timer once you kill the first, the enemy's called the Pregnant because it's got like other enemies in its stomach. And he's going to buy a weapon that not very many people use in their casual runs, the Detonator. This gun used to be like pivotal to the run. Now he's going to use it only in this chapter, I think.
I think I fire it 3 times.
Yeah, but it's...
Yeah.
The Detonator, for those who may not have used it when they played, it puts down like mines. It's actually really broken to be used as a grenade launcher, but you have to be really careful not to accidentally kill yourself with it, because if you shoot an enemy too close to you, you will die. But it does a lot of damage.
Even on the easiest difficulty,
it does a lot of splash damage, and it has a wide radius.
Yeah, but if you space it properly, it is very broken. And the fact that you can lay traps with it is also very useful, which we're going to be using in just a minute or two here.
Yeah, so the enemy that he's about to fight is they're called stalkers, but they are a little bit more difficult of an enemy type because they'll hide in a room with a bunch of obstacles, and then they'll charge at you at random intervals. And so normally what you're supposed to do is you're supposed to just camp and wait for them to all charge at you and then kill them one at a time, but that takes forever. So what Shark's going to do instead is he's just going to run through the room and place a detonator mine in a specific location, so that way it kills the first stalker that runs out to him. which will give him enough time to complete the hack panel puzzle at the end of the room and just run out of the room without having to fight any of the rest of the enemies.
Yeah, and the weapon routing throughout the history of the game has been really interesting because I remember Looney mentioning to me that when the detonator was first suggested to be added to the run, people thought, really? Like, you're really going to add the detonator? And then it became super, super important, and now we don't really use that much anymore. It's the same thing, like we added the flamethrower in very briefly. That was, okay. We added the flame, that works.
Yeah.
We added the flamethrower very briefly, which was considered to be more of a meme weapon, but it had a very specific use at one point, which we no longer need it for.
In the late game.
Yeah.
That's really scary, actually, because those hack panels only open once you've completed the entirety of the animation. So even though he's finished the whole puzzle and he's like coming out of the animation, if he gets hit at it, he has to do the whole puzzle again. And if that happens in that room, it's a total nightmare. You just restart the
you can lose. You have to either like restart it or just kill everything or kill a couple enemies and then try to do it again before they hit you.
Once about a minute passes in that room, enemies start spawning out of the vent right next to the hack panel, and then it's like impossible to do the hack. So you really got to get it
kill
fast.
everything. Yeah.
Yeah, it's definitely a run killer if you mess it up.
Yeah. So we're meeting one of the other main characters, Ellie here. She's another survivor. She is sort of cold to us at first. She doesn't trust us, but eventually they become good friends and try to help each other out to escape. The character development between them is actually really good. We're not going to see a lot of it because we skip a lot of the cutscenes in this game. And so Ellie's going to kind of just disappear sometimes, and we just won't see her for 10, 15 minutes at a time.
Yeah, in the speedrun, the story of Isaac and Ellie really just does not make any sense at all.
No.
Yeah.
Maybe she just sees him flying around in zero G and like in the vacuum of space with no suit, and it's just like, you know what? Maybe I should trust that guy. He seems like he knows what he's doing. I would.
Yeah.
Yeah, so we're just sitting through another small little cutscene here, and then we'll get in this elevator, and then go into the next part of chapter 6.
Yeah, this chapter's the kind of the downtime chapter of the game. It's definitely the slowest paced, but there are some cool stuff coming up.
Yes, there are some cool tricks coming up here. It's just sort of, broken up by a little bit of cutscene here and there.
Yeah, we're going to do a cool deload in the school, which is the part that we're about to go into. But then after that, we'll have to sit through a lot more cutscene, and then it'll get back to being interesting.
Yeah, I'm also looking down here because generally not looking at enemies makes them less aggressive, so I'm less likely to get hit here.
There's
less likely.
So you just got hit by an enemy called a puka. Pukas are one of the more annoying enemies in this game. They have a ranged attack that if it hits you, it will slow Isaac's movement speed down. And Isaac will be slowed for about 10 seconds unless you can change his health value, either by taking damage or healing. So if you're full health and a puka hits you, it's like, oh, great, I gotta try and find something to hit me. That's usually why we like to stay on low health. And now he's gonna reopen that door and then open this door, which causes this room to get deloaded. This tricks the game into not knowing which room is supposed to be loaded. And like all the other areas, when you're in a deload, the doors don't have collision anymore, so you can just run through this room. The curtain in the gym also doesn't have collision, so normally there's a big curtain and you gotta do a hack and a big fight sequence to get through this area, but he can just run straight through the door and go on. There used to be a different trick in there where you can actually like boost up on some chairs and there's a debug trigger floating in the sky and you can hit the debug trigger which will open the curtain, but we don't do that anymore because it's slow.
Alright, we're gonna wait
I missed that trick.
Oh yeah, it's cool. We have a category called no deloads where you're not allowed to do any of those tricks, and we still do it in that. Yo, let's go! Okay, we got it for a little bit.
Yeah, so there you just have to wait for Nicole to stop talking before you can proceed. And so that's just something that we do once you just burn time. We try to balance the time out.
It's the classic. The classic thing is when you're speedrunning this game, you have to try and balance something on Nicole's head during the
you put her in
sequence.
timeout.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, Nicole is like this apparition of Isaac's dead girlfriend from Dead Space 1 that kind of just messes with him and slowly drives him crazy over the course of the game.
That's what all these hallucination scenes that we keep seeing are all about.
And she is also ultimately the final boss of the game that you have to fight at the end. Oh, I'm sorry.
Yeah, game's almost. Actually, speaking of spoilers, the game's almost 11 years old now. I believe. We did a instead of meme races where we beat the game only with one particular low tier weapon. So we did that. We might do it again this year. Actually, I believe the 25th is when the game came out in North America, at least. It was the 10th year anniversary last year, so it'll be the 11th this year. Kind of crazy.
Yeah, that's pretty crazy.
And also, one thing I should mention, I think this game still looks amazing. I'm playing on full brightness and lowest graphics possible. I still think the game looks pretty good this way, but when you crank the brightness back down to normal and then the graphics all the way up, this game almost still looks like a new game.
Yeah, it's pretty impressive. And it's very well optimized. Most of the time, we manipulate frame rate a lot in this game, and most of the time he's going to be running at like 250, 300 FPS. And you can do that on like a potato PC, honestly. Like, it's kind of crazy how well this game runs. And that's kind of essential because there's a couple of 0G clip type things that require really high frame rates. And so it's nice that this game is so well optimized because the barrier for entry is pretty low. You don't have to have a really good PC to hit like 250 FPS in this game.
I just got 3 random stasis pack drops. That's so rare, dude. Okay, I think I can use them anyway.
If this were hardcore, you'd be loving it.
Oh, yeah.
This room is infamous in Dead Space 2 speedrunning.
Good old transport hub.
It's got this long dialogue sequence, and then it's going to spawn an enemy called a brute. If you played the game, or if you haven't, they're the big gorilla enemies that can only be attacked from behind. Well, they can be attacked from the front, but you can usually only be attacked from behind. That's how you're meant to like dodge their charges and hit them in the back.
Yeah.
Brutes are a bit unique in terms of enemies in that they have prop-like collision to an extent. So Shark is going to try and get the brute to push him through the door so he doesn't have to sit through a bunch of dialogue.
This version is called, we call this lovingly Monkey Punch. So if we can get some monkey emotes in the chat. We'll see if it works.
This used to be really consistent. Well, we'll see if you get it.
It's very frustrating.
Come on. No.
All right, try again.
All right, you can try a few times.
He almost got it that time.
I can try it pretty much as many times as I want as long as I have health. Oh, third try, let's go.
Yeah, nice.
Big pog, big pog.
This used to be really consistent. If you have stasis, it's really easy. Because you can like you can manipulate the brute's movements really easily with stasis and get into like just run past you and push you through the door. But because we skipped stasis, we have to get him to punch him through the door. And the punching, if he punches you, I think it's with what, his right arm?
Yeah, right arm clips.
So if he punches you with the right arm, it works. Left arm sometimes works, but usually doesn't. And it's random which arm he punches you with. So it can be a little annoying.
There's another version that I try to do sometimes that is a little more consistent, but then sometimes it's not, so I don't know. Well, so we're going to be doing
the best dialogue in the game, just saying.
Oh, yes.
So
as you click on the bounds as it goes.
Yeah. I'm heading outside to have a look. This is chapter 7 skip, and this is one of the older skips that was found a while ago.
This was found like right when you and I started.
Yeah, right when you and I started.
2020. Yeah.
So what he's doing is he did what's called a wiggle clip to get out of the room into this out of bounds area, and then he's going to fly all the way up to the top of the map. And normally, what you're supposed to do in this chapter is you're supposed to ride this elevator up to this really high Z coordinate value, and then complete an entire chapter, all of chapter 7, and then you fall all the way back down to where the rest of the game is. But so what he's going to do is he's just going to wiggle clip out, climb to the top of the map, and then line up on some textures from below, and then jump and fall all the way down and hit the checkpoint at the end of the chapter, and it just skips the entire
chapter. The most beautiful thing is I don't know if I got it until it loads in. And we got it first time. Let's go.
Nice.
So now we're at the end of chapter 7.
That skips kind of annoying. Basically, the 0Gs are big boxes, and so he has to fly to the top of the box and line up and then fly out of the box. So he loses 0G and starts falling. You can't just like fly to the checkpoint, unfortunately, because it's not inside the 0G box.
Yeah, and you're not actually supposed to be able to get into this store either, by the way. So it turns out there's a separate a separate trigger that locks the door, but also starts this auto scroller. So we hit the one that starts the auto scroller, but not locks the door. So we just get back into the store and we can shop while we wait for Ellie to unlock the door for us.
Yeah, so we have to wait for a fixed amount of time before we can proceed.
Yeah.
So he's just doing some trading.
So if you've played the game, this that skips the entire solar array section, where you go up and you have to like fix the solar array. That whole section, it takes like 10 minutes.
Yeah, I think that's the biggest skip in the game, right? It's huge.
It's pretty close. It says
depends
like 9
on how
minutes.
you count drill skip, I guess.
That's true. Yeah.
Yeah, because if you count like the 3 skips that add up for drill skip, that's the biggest. But I think by itself, it's either engineering deck or this.
It skips the entirety of Chapter 7, which is one of the longer chapters in the game.
Yeah.
And it skips a lot. The nice thing was, it skips a lot of auto-scrollers. So like, the run used to have a lot of these auto-scrollers in the mid-game. Like, you're riding up an elevator, and then you're flying down an elevator, and like, you're waiting for people to stop talking. You know, but now you just like yeet yourself into space and hit a checkpoint and you just skip all of it.
Yeah. So waiting for
he's waiting for
here. So after she says this last line here, I'm gonna wait a second or two and then I can head out the door. We used to look at our air timer when it said 45 you would go, but again you'll notice I don't have an air timer because the patient suit is immune to vacuums for some reason. It's weird. You can't save the game normally. Even when there's a vacuum, but with the patient suit you can.
Yeah.
So
they just never anticipated you to be running around in a vacuum with the patient suit, so they never built any.
He
of that.
stays inside that area to avoid the big fight sequence. Normally, you go into there, the room locks, and then the vacuum starts, and there's heaps of enemies. It's just safer to stay in there. You can actually just run around in circles around the room, and the enemies will never catch you. Which is what we used to do, and it's very funny to watch you just running around in circles around this big room. The whole crew of necromorphs chasing you.
That's what Kyle and I used to do. Actually, we used to watch this guy on YouTube named Major Slack, and that's how him and I got into Dead Space. Actually, he made these hardcore tutorials, and that was a Slack strat. I remember that him and I used to do. So shout out to that. Shout out to him.
Yeah, shout out to Major Slack, wherever he is these days.
Yeah. All right, so we're finishing up a cutscene here, so if you want to read, I'd say like 2 donations maybe?
2 donations, you've got it. We have $250 from Mamoru the Tiger, who says, had to donate during one of my husband's favorite games. Seeing this loading manipulation and unlocking unlimited ammo is nuts. Great run so far, keep it up. Let's blast cancer out of an airlock. Heart, P.S. engineers know a lot. I'm about to have a degree in it. Oh, congrats, Mamoru. And we have $500 from Radial Drift, who says, a great event supporting a fantastic organization. Best of luck to all the runners this week.
Awesome, thank you so much. All right, so there's a little bit of a, I don't know if I want to call it a trick, but we call it fast door. So if enemies are holding doors open behind you, you can't open doors in front of you until they close. I think the devs knew a little bit about the game unloading. Like they figured if doors open too quick, you'd fall out of bounds. So we got it there. I try to kill the enemies in a certain way so that door opens as quickly as possible. Someone want to explain Chapter 8 skip real quick?
All right. So he's going to do another deload off of these 2 doors while Nicole's talking to him, and this is going to unload the map. He's going to run backwards here and open this door, which will cause the next set of rooms to load in. So normally you would have to talk to Nicole and Stross for a while and go through the 0G area. He's just going to walk through a locked door, and he's going to do a lineup to launch himself through the next locked door, which would normally take you to Chapter 9, but the floor's not loaded. And then he's going to lower his FPS to delay the loading of the big shaft in Chapter 9. So he's now jumped from Chapter 8 to Chapter 9, and now that he's landed on the edge of Chapter 9, he's going to drop out of bounds in Chapter 9 and skip pretty much to the end of Chapter 9. This is 8 and 9 skip, and 8 and 9 has had a very storied history. There's been like 15 versions of this skip over the last year and a half.
We would just keep calling them like just add skip to the name, so it's Chapter 8 skip, and then Chapter 8 skip, and then we were like, we just should call it Chapter 8 skip. That's what it is. It's just Chapter 8 skip now. Oh, I actually got a lucky tripod spawn there. That was really good.
That was really good. That was excellent.
He almost always spawns right there in your way and hits you, which loses a little bit of time, but he actually spawned over there, which was really nice.
Yeah, and that room.
Yeah, and
oh, sorry. Go ahead.
Oh, and so then we noted that he lowered his FPS to a specific value when he did that trick. That's because the way that the game loads in the areas is actually frame rate dependent. And since like it's really hard to find lineups that work consistently at like the highest frame rate, sometimes you're allowed to lower your frame rate. And you know, we were having these weird discrepancies where it's like, I have this setup and it works for me every time, but no one else can get it to work. And we have this problem over and over again. So what we ended up doing is just, let's just cap the FPS at something like specific that we know works and just allow people to switch it on the fly, because otherwise every single person would have to find a completely different setup for like every single trick. And that trick specifically was incredibly difficult for some people.
Yeah, so we didn't realize it first because, you know, if you turn VSync on in this game, it locks the FPS to 30. But what we realized was that, you know, that it's also dependent, the loads are dependent on your hardware. So for some people, the wall would load in too fast and they get bounced off, and we just thought, oh, maybe these people are just doing it wrong. We're not sure why it's not working. And then we realized that...
Also, none of us have mentioned it, but there are 2 Ellies and 2 Strosses. Because he skipped he jumped over the lift in the tripod room, which skips a trigger to unload one of the sets of Ellies and Strosses and sets up the other one for the cutscene. But because he skipped it, it leaves the other set there. Yeah. And so there's 2 Ellies and Strosses in the tram.
Yeah. There's just a lot of stuff. Oh wait, he's gonna say the line. Hold on. Yep. There we go. He said the line.
Okay. He's full of bad ideas.
Yeah. There's a lot of things to explain in this game. Sometimes it goes by really fast.
Yeah. So now he's about to go into the USG Ishimura from Dead Space 1, which I'm sure anybody who's seen Dead Space 1
Unfortunately, no pulse rifles.
Unfortunately, no pulse boosting in this game.
No.
But he's gonna do a really interesting skip here called Engineering Deck Skip, where he's going to clip off of a lift and then run around to another part of the flight deck that he's not supposed to be at. And then once he gets there, he's going to jump off of a ledge, do another door dive into the medical deck. But when he enters the medical deck, he's going to be in a deloaded state. And then he's going to be able to skip most of the medical deck by just running through the dark.
This skip is pretty crazy. Chapter 10 is going to fly by. And this used to be the longest chapter in the game.
I still can't believe this is real. I remember Looney saying, hey, I think medical deck is over here in flight deck at the beginning. And I just thought, there's no way. There's no way, dude.
This is a fairly new trick.
Yeah.
I can't remember when I found it.
I think like late summer, early fall last year, I want to say.
Yeah, a few months ago.
Yeah.
And this is another chapter that's gone through a lot of evolution throughout the course of speedrunning this game.
Yeah. So he clipped off the lift and he's going over to the end of the flight deck. There's actually just a hole in the wall. So he's going to set up a line gun, put a line gun mine behind him to launch himself into the abyss and then open a door in the medical deck, which is like near the end of chapter 10 as he's falling. But the level won't load properly. So he's gonna open it into a deload, which will let him skip even more content in the medical deck.
Basically, he's cheating.
Oh, yeah.
There we go. I aimed a little more right there to make that a little bit more...
cheating without any cheats.
Yes, exactly.
So I could have landed on the other side of the door, but I wanted to be safe, so...
So now he's in the medical deck, much closer to the end of the chapter, and he's also in a deloaded state. So he's going to skip most of what he would normally have to do.
Yeah, so he can like skip that hack panel, for example.
Yeah, and I turned high graphics on because the flares option for high graphics makes some of these lights appear that normally wouldn't be here. I don't know how well you can see them on stream, but it makes it easier to see where I'm going.
So you can see it running backwards through some areas and opening doors like that. You do that to let areas of the game load in, but keeping the deload. If you just open it running forward, the level will just load in normally. So you need to like run through it and then open it, and the game thinks you're going the opposite direction you're actually going. So you can keep the deload and keep going.
Yeah, it's a little bit faster to have it stay deloaded.
And eventually loads back in here by itself.
Yeah, and you don't have to wait for any door opening. You do have to run backwards through a few doors, but you don't have to like stand there and wait for doors to open. You don't have to deal with any of the necromorphs trying to kill you.
Yeah, there's a certain point there where you can just open the door and continuing the deload only saves about another 3 or 5 seconds, but it's just one of those things that eventually we just start.
It's so hard to navigate that deload.
It actually is. It's pretty difficult for 3 or 5 seconds, I will say. It's definitely not easy. But it's one of those things where we just say, okay, we need to start saving more time. So what can we add?
Yeah, there's a lot of running around in the dark.
There's a bunch of pukers, and then he's going to do another save station clip where he drops to low FPS, and then flips through that save station to drop down. This just skips skips having to take the lift down, which saves a few seconds.
Yeah, that was good. That door dive is I've been missing that a lot recently, so that was
yeah. Some of these tricks are really precise. Like I mentioned earlier, this game has a really high skill floor. So like if you want to get a clean run with all the fastest strats, it takes a long time and it's really, really grueling because a lot of these tricks are just super precise. But Shark's basically not going for any baby strats. Like everything he's been doing is like just the full on like fastest version of the strat.
Yeah.
And hitting all of them. So.
Yeah. That panel there, you have to hold like your interact button, but you can actually just move while you're holding it. So you can run through the door and the door glitches out. And then, nice, you got it. So it's gonna interact with the escape pod before Nicole spawns, which lets us get into the escape pod. It breaks all the audio though.
Yeah, so normally there's supposed to be audio and sound effects playing during this whole sequence, but because he did the Nicole cutscene skip at the beginning, there's just going to be dead silence the whole time.
Yeah, the game sound will still play. If I had stasis and it recharged, it'd play that sound effect, or if I went in the menu, it'd still play, but the actual cutscene audio is busted.
It's immersive, dude. He's in space.
Exactly. All right, so this would be another great time for some donations.
Awesome. We have $25 from Crimson Bautausi, who says, "Hey GDQ, second time donating. Had to for one of the best games of all time, Dead Space. This game is a masterpiece, and seeing it being ran is a privilege. It was worth taking time off work this week to watch GDQ and being able to watch these amazing runners." We also have $50 from Chel Wong, who says, "Every year I get so excited for GDQ, but also last month we lost someone dear to us, so this donation is dedicated to Andrea. Thank you GDQ and PCF for everything you do, and may this donation go towards helping someone else in need. I love you all." Chel, thank you so much for your donation in Andrea's memory. Chat, can we get some hearts for Andrea and Chel, please? That was really sweet.
That was very nice, thank you.
We also have $25 from MDL at QP, who says, "Great event so far, enjoying it thoroughly. Many thanks to everyone involved for putting in the hard work to plan and organize, the runners to train and practice, the viewers and donors for engaging and watching and supporting and donating, and PCF for life-saving, world-changing mission that makes such an enormous difference. Bring on the week of speedruns."
I think we keep going, maybe one or two more.
I can do that. We have $10 from Mar and Gak, who say, "This donation is in honor of our friend's mom, Judy, who is currently fighting off cancer like Isaac fights off necromorphs. She requested we donate during this run, and we couldn't deny that request. Let's all help fight off cancer. Judy, please keep fighting. Mar and Gak, thank you for your $10 donation." And we have $25 from Adelie Bird, who says, hey, long-time watcher, first-time donator, but I had to during Dead Space 2, which is one of my all-time favorite games. Also, shout out to Living Looney Bin, Australian speedrunners represent."
Let's go.
Goes to show that not all moms hate Dead Space 2. The advertising campaign is incorrect.
Exactly, yeah. So one of those rooms back there, that's soccer room. We have to kill the enemies to progress to unlock the door. So I was just shooting some mines in some particular places to blow them up in a timely manner. We're going to do our last bit of shopping here. I'm going to pick up the contact beam for the final boss and the seeker rifle, which you don't normally see anymore in world record runs, but it does make a trick coming up in a bit easier. So I'm just getting that for safety. And this room we can get.
Anyone who's played this room in hardcore,
this room in hardcore is terrifying because you can't do this right here, which is
the checkpoint restart gets rid of all the enemies. Well, pretty much all the enemies. It resets them all.
Yeah, it gives you this very predictable pattern. In hardcore, you just have to react. Right before this is a pretty common place to safety save.
Yeah, definitely.
Okay, so I should start explaining drill skip because it's about to start happening. So, so this is going to be a really long-winded skip because this skip takes about like 10 minutes to actually execute, and it goes across a couple of different levels. So basically, Ellie just lost her depth perception, and we're like gonna try to help her deal with Strauss. And we're supposed to have this cutscene where we kill Strauss and whatnot. But instead, we're going to do a wiggle clip in 0G out here and skip right past that. And that's going to end us up right at the elevator after we're supposed to kill Strauss. Funnily enough, that means in the speedrun, it's canon, Strauss never dies. So he's out here running around the spire somewhere to this day, probably. But yeah, super good wiggle clip.
Yeah, no.
That was excellent.
But so
we use that log to line up. Well, that's one of the ways we can line up to find the checkpoint. So we're going to hit a checkpoint later in the mission, which is still in the 0G. This is called Strauss kill skip, but it's the first part of drill skip, the big saga that this trick is.
Yes, which is then followed by punch up the shaft, which is what he's about to do.
Yeah, you can see I have 0G here, which I'm not normally supposed to.
So the way that the 0G works in this game, like we said earlier, is these big bounding boxes. But we actually skip the trigger to despawn that bounding box for this level by doing that skip. So it's one of the few times where we still have 0G after doing a restart checkpoint. And unfortunately, we're not able to fly all the way to the top of the elevator shaft skipping it because the 0G bounding box doesn't extend all the way to the top. But what we can do is we can get on the wall like this. And then when we punch, we maintain our 0G state until we stop punching. So if you have any punch emotes, this is a great time to do it because we're going to be punching up this shaft for like a minute and a half straight because we want to stay sideways on the wall so we can get on top and skip some stuff later. But this means that we just got to punch and stall here until we get to the top.
Yeah,
this can sometimes cause nausea for sensitive viewers.
Yeah, this is actually some tech we took from Dead Space 1. Dead Space 1, it works a little differently in the first game, but it's pretty cool that it works in this one as well. It actually lets us do this absolutely insane skip.
And so the goal here is to stay against the wall when you're not in 0G anymore. So if he were to drop his punches, he would fall to the ground. And that's important because we don't need 0G forever, but we do want to be able to skip the door at the top of this elevator. So he's just going to keep punching, and he has to be really careful that he doesn't mess up any of the platforming here because he'll fall all the way down the elevator shaft. And if that happens, you got to punch all the way back up.
Yeah, because again, this trick is a prerequisite, this trick is a prerequisite for the next trick, which is also a huge skip. So I do have to do this. So.
Yeah, he sits up this high on the lift too and just goes backwards and forth, even though it's kind of disorienting. There's necromorphs on the lift, and if they hit you, you'll just lose 0G. So you need to not get hit as well during this whole sequence, which is pretty easy as long as you stay away from them because they're all melee enemies, thankfully. But now that he's at the top of the elevator shaft, he's going to get off of it and climb a bit higher up to some platforms where he can land on. And once he's on those platforms, he's going to do some little bit of running up some walls and some platforming. Needs to make sure to kill all of the enemies as well, because the door is locked until all the necromorphs die. So, that always worries me.
That's
and then we get into
this part is like one of the most terrifying parts of the whole run.
If you drop this, you have to go all the way back down to the bottom of the elevator shaft and then back up.
We got it. Oh my god. Cool. Okay.
He should have got it, and that's going to set up the next part of the trick. So that is a prerequisite to do this part of the trick. So the way that it works is when you enter a cutscene or certain doors that start cutscenes, the game actually puts you in an invincible state so that you can't die during the cutscene. And we skipped a cutscene where Nicole and Isaac make up and are now boyfriend and girlfriend again in that door frame. But as you just saw, he just blew himself up with a mine and he didn't take any damage because while the cutscene was skipped because he's in chapter 12 now instead of chapter 11, the invincibility trigger never despawned. So now, not only do we have unlimited ammo, but we're also invincible. And this is going to be really, really important because you can actually die from falling too much. If you fall far enough, you'll die. And we don't want that to happen because what we're going to set up here is to skip this big auto-scroller section coming up called the drill. And in order to do that, we're going to need to fall really, really far.
Yeah. At the start of this area, he went over a railing to skip a cutscene with Ellie, and he just went to low FPS on that transport to clip off of it after getting the key. So now he's going to trigger the drill to start turning around, so we need to get on the drill in order to get off of it. This area, the next area is triggered by loading of the... Oh, you're actually going to hit the cutscene.
Yeah. This is going to
You can
play
hit this
2
cutscene.
cutscenes on top of each other.
Yeah, this is pretty funny because the drill will just like go over you and you'll be alright in the cutscene.
Yeah, because you're invincible
And you
during
can
the
see there's a
cutscene.
puker there.
So the drill can't kill you, even though it spins around in a circle. And you kind of sequence break Ellie here because we're supposed to watch the cutscene, so she's just also along for the ride while the drill goes through us. But yeah, so basically, like we said before, the entire map is loaded in some instances on the same area, right? So like if you can figure out where the next chapter is and it's loaded, then you can get there. And it turns out the next chapter is directly below us and like kind of far away to the side. But with all of these tricks set up on top of each other, if we get off of the drill, then the drill will reach the end of its destination. And when the drill reaches the end of its destination, that is what triggers the next level to load in. So while we can't necessarily skip the entirety of riding the drill, we can skip a bunch of unskippable cutscenes that are after the drill. So what we're going to be doing here is we're going to take this little piece of geometry and we're going to use it at 30 FPS to clip off the drill once we are on the drill's path. So he did it real easy there, and now he's going to do a really precise setup. This is called drill skip. Well, the last 10 minutes have been called drill skip, basically. But this is like the drill skip part of drill skip. So he's going to find a really precise angle to line up on using this gun right here. And so what's going to happen is when the drill gets far enough away, it's going to deload the area that we're in. Because the areas are not triggered by doors in this instance, they're triggered by the drill. So once the drill's far enough away, you fall. And then right when you land in the 0G, so when we did Strauss kill skip earlier, we made it so that the 0G bounding box is still there. And it persists forever, basically, as long as the next level is loaded in. So we fall into the 0G box. And that 0G box wouldn't be there. Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, the reason we got invincibility was because you can't survive that fall. That fall is too far. Normally the game will kill you after you fall about 80 coordinates. That's like 200 coordinates down. And so you need to like get invincibility so you can actually survive that fall. And now Shark's doing a specific set of movements to get right at the edge of the 0G, right where, like right pretty much above and just a little bit next to where a door in chapter 13 is going to be. But we have to wait till the drill to reach the end of the path for chapter 13 to load. So when he gets to the end here, he's going to stop moving and we're going to wait for, what is it, like a minute and a half?
Minute 45, something and a half, something like that.
So,
yeah, so I have my timer pulled up right now, and usually what we do is we use that as I mean, you can use whatever, but most people use their timer. So I know there's certain numbers here where once I hit those, I can start buffering my inputs.
Yeah, so we made a very precise setup that relies on you using a timer and moving left for a specific amount of time and then backwards for a specific amount of time so that we land in the perfect spot. Because I don't know if you could tell, but there's no visual cues here and there's barely any audio cues either. So we're basically just navigating completely in the void, and we have to line up at a very specific spot so that we can hit a door dive into the next chapter.
Yeah, there's been a few versions of this trick. This is the latest one. We call it Super Drill. There's a few other ones, Drill Skip, Extended Drill. They all skip different amounts of content and have different difficulties. This one's fairly new, actually. We knew it was possible for a while, but we just could not figure out a consistent way to do it. Because all the other ones, we line up with something and then fall, and we just don't move until like a certain time. They're just like, okay, just go forward. This one is like, okay, we gotta go to the side for a bit and then back for a bit. And it's like, really like rough trying to figure this out because every time you gotta wait 3 minutes.
Yeah, you really cheat yourself to wait like 3 minutes to try it once. Fortunately, this version's different. The other one we were trying was there's a load zone in the room past where the door is. We were trying to hit that. Mega inconsistent. It barely works. Fortunately, this door version is very consistent. I'm gonna focus here to try to get it. It's not that hard, but if I miss it, I have to do the whole thing over again, and we lose like 5 minutes. So we're on really good pace. I'm only like a minute and a half behind world record right now, so it's totally fine if I have to do it again. But I'd also like to just get it first try. So,
bro, you got this. It's fine.
Yeah, you got it.
Bro, this trick is easy. You literally just stand still for like a minute and a half.
I know, right?
And it's very good if he gets it because we get to skip an enormous amount of otherwise.
This trick is like insane because if
if
you don't do any part of the like last 2 chapters correctly, you cannot do this. Nice.
Oh,
Let's go, dude.
Very nice. Very
Awesome. That is awesome.
So now he's in chapter 13, and he's already in he's already skipped the whole beginning of chapter 13, and is now in a deloaded state, which he just got out of.
That's a huge weight off my chest, not only because I don't have to do that entire thing again, but also because Kyle and I made a bet that if I miss that skip, I have to jump in my pool with my clothes on, and the water's like 60 degrees, so...
that will not be happening.
So, yeah, there's that, yeah. It's really not that hard of a trick, it's just, I don't know, before the event, I was just kind of psyching myself up, like, dude, if I do miss it, though, I am not gonna have a good time. Oh, man, alright, so yeah, we are invincible here. So I can kind of just run through some of these enemies. The laser room coming up here is going to look pretty funny as well.
And this game has 15 chapters. This is chapter 13, but this is actually really the last chapter of the game because we skip the entirety of chapter 14 and 15 and just go right to the final boss at the end of this chapter. So it's really the last chapter of the game.
So again, the lasers are more of a suggestion when we're invincible, so just going to do that.
You have to make
I do need to kill this enemy here. Yeah, so there's a deload coming up where we need an enemy to hold the door open for us, but he won't spawn unless we kill that specific enemy. So as long as I take care of that, we should be fine. Just gonna look down to reduce some lag here.
This next deload is insane to me that you can actually navigate this next room because I can barely navigate it when I can see.
There's not a lot of visual cues here, unfortunately. So it honestly just takes a lot of practice. We'll see how we do. Well, first we gotta see, this guy can either charge us fast or slow. Okay, we got a fast charge, nice. That's usually what happens. When you get a slow charge, it's not a big deal, you just lose a few seconds.
Yeah, so he kneecaps that enemy to hold the door open, and then he's gonna go open the other door, which gets the game confused, like all the other deloads, as to what levels are loaded, and now you can just manipulate the level loads. And so this next big room is all one big, like, load, it's all loaded at once. So he's going to run down really all of the stairs, and then through there's a door at the end that has a hack panel, and there's a brute that attacks you while you're trying to hack it. But you can just run through it now that it's all deloaded. But he has to navigate this whole room in the dark.
And it's somewhat difficult because the geometry of this room is fairly complex. You have to run around a couple of loops and then go down several ramps and go through several doors throughout the whole process. So
you get a bit of a hint here when this loads in, if you're totally just running into the wall or not, but that wasn't too bad.
So now we're about to do 14-15 skip.
Yeah, so this is going to skip the entirety of the last 2 levels pretty much, also known as eye poke skip. So I have my low FPS toggle here, and I'm going to attempt to hit this elevator button and get out of the elevator before the invisible wall that blocks me spawns
That
in.
is not your stream dropping frames. That is the game screaming for help.
Yes.
Okay, that's good. I still have to hit the checkpoint though.
So now as long as he hits this checkpoint, we will skip the last 2 chapters of the game and go right to the final boss.
That was really short.
Yeah.
I made a save.
We have to do it again.
Yeah, I made a safety save so I don't have to run all the way back from the last checkpoint. Yeah, okay.
That's all right.
You didn't see that.
That's not a big
This
deal.
is the first try.
Yeah. So when you call this elevator, it loads all of chapters 14 and 15 because it's the last map file. So takes advantage, lands on the where you would do eye poke, and then he's going to do a lineup to hopefully hit a checkpoint at the end of chapter 15 because chapter 15 is right below the start of chapter 14.
Not sure about that one. Okay, one more time.
One more time.
You know what? Third time.
Yeah, this is definitely a tricky one sometimes.
Yeah, this is a huge skip as well. But the thing that I really like about this skip is I always said that this game would never get into GDQ unless we skipped the eye poke, and then you know what? It happened before we got into GDQ. So.
Yeah.
your eyes are all saved. There is no poking of eyes occurring today.
Yeah. That one looked a little weird too. I'm not sure.
Maybe just wait for the lift to go down, dude.
Okay, so the version I'm trying to do right now saves about 8 seconds. There's a pretty easy one I can do instead. Okay, yeah, I'll just do that. Okay. All right.
Do the freebie.
Yeah, this one's really easy. I was trying to do the other one to show it off. It's just not cooperating with me right now, so that's okay. There we go. Okay, that'll work.
Yeah.
That looks really good. There we go.
Yeah, so there's like this cutscene with Tideman and stuff, and then this Uber morph, and like you put a needle in your eyeball and stuff. But we don't do any of that now. We just go right to the boss.
And now Isaac is gonna break dance.
Yeah, we're gonna do a little bit of a swag strut on Tideman.
Yeah, they dab.
Yeah, is that gonna work? Yeah.
Yeah, you got it.
Oh my god, nice.
So that was totally unnecessary. It's just really cool
that does not say at any time.
Yeah,
I'll
zap him and don't forget to dab.
Yeah, I will. So yeah, you can alt fire him, which is I guess a little bit of an Easter egg. It's actually like a tiny bit slower, but it does look pretty cool. So
give him a new piercing.
We'll do that.
Yeah,
I think those are allowed in the military.
pretty rough spot for.
Kind of shocking.
Oh, there goes the hat. There goes the hat. It does that. So this is where you think we've defeated the final antagonist of the game, so we're all good. And then Nicole pulls the sick 180
Nicole?
on us. Also, she's supposed to be loaded in here.
Yeah, Nicole's supposed to be here talking to Isaac right now, but because we did 14-15 skip, he's just
I think
not
it
there.
fits, man. He's in the patient suit.
Yeah.
You just like you're just seeing things, dude. Nicole's not real.
Nicole's
Like
just
actually not
there.
real. Yeah.
Oops.
You get to see what Isaac actually
Yeah, there's just nothing there.
See. Yeah.
So if you thought that, this game's run on casual, like that's kind of lame, I want more combat, this boss fight is literally killed in like 2 shots.
And this is normally actually a very difficult boss fight. But if you get this quick kill right at the beginning, normally you're not supposed to be able to shoot the marker twice in a row like that. But if you hit Nicole quickly enough, you can get 2 shots in on the marker, which is enough to kill it instantly and just end the boss fight.
Just shut her down, take her ELO. Time for a rank up.
Yeah. So we got about 2 minutes left of cutscene before the end of the game. This run was really good. I think this is definitely gonna be sub 110 in-game time. RTA is usually about 4 minutes or 5 minutes slower because of loads. So yeah, this was really good. Besides I poke skip trolling me a little bit, that went pretty much as well as it could have asked for. We can still die, by the way. There's a little flying sequence, but it's not hard. So while we're waiting here, I guess I'd like to just really quickly shout out the Dead Space community. And you all are amazing. We put in a lot of great work in this game. So thank you so much to all of you. And if you guys have anything else to say or any donations after that, that'd be perfect.
I have a few more I'd really like to get in before the end of the run, but I promise I'll be fast. We have we have $5 from Osmord, who says, I might have never played a Dead Space game, but I have seen a Shark Hat stream, and that alone is worth watching and donating to an amazing cause. Good luck on the run, Shark. Your friend Oz. And we have $25 from Maxi Lobes, who says, Maxi here, I've been around for a long time and I've watched the horror speedrunning community grow a ton over the years. It's truly a treat to watch Shark Hat and the Dead Space community showing off their hard work. You're all doing great. Much love, GDQ Heart.
Awesome.
Yeah, well, here's another one. I'm crashing through the roof to get you.
Fantastic. Thank you so much. Couch commentators, you guys have anything else you want to say?
Thanks.
Yeah, I mean, this is pretty much the end of the game. Just have one last little fight sequence left. It's amazing to see this game at GDQ. Definitely not something I would have expected to see when I first started running this game a couple of years ago, and it's just been an amazing experience.
Yeah,
and
definitely.
I'm glad
I
to have
think
been part of it.
back when I started running this game, like in 2019, it was just like Looney and like a couple other dudes, and it was like very not optimized, definitely not as broken, and we brought it down to sub 2, and it's just been really, really cool to see the community just consistently bring the game down and like find more and more stuff. And I've never been part of it. I'm part of a lot of speedrun communities, and this community is very special because honestly, like people don't even care that much about the actual runs or times. It's mostly like
Time,
just
by the
what
way.
can we do? Yeah, time, by the way. Yeah. Yeah.
Oh, time. Sorry, time.
But yeah, like it's really cool to see the community be so like discovery oriented. Like everyone just wants to find new stuff all the time and like break the game apart and make all these really awesome resources for people to get into it. And if you are at all interested in any of the Dead Space games, definitely go join the Discord from on speedrun.com, and there's a ton of awesome resources, and it's really cool to see people just continuing the lineage of optimizing Dead Space. It's really rad.
Yeah, it's been great.
Yeah. And like we said, the game's very easy to get into, and there's probably plenty more to find.
I've been running the game since, God, 2013, and it's just been great to see how much it's improved. Like, how much the community's grown and how much it's improved over the years. I never thought it would be at GDQ, but we got the first game in last year, and now the second game, third game. Maybe.
Looney lost Dead Space 3.
That's pretty much all I got. Like they said, if you want to get into the game, the Dead Space Speedrunning Discord, you can find it at speedrun.com. That's the best place to do it. We got tons of people that can help you out. Like I said, there's tons of different routes. Whether you want to jump right into the hard stuff, just do it, easy beginner route. It's a super fun run, and it's a great community, great to hang out with everyone. And yeah, this was a blast. My first GDQ run. The run went super well. That's about all I got. Just thank you for having me.
One last thing, make sure to go follow Shortcut87 and Living Looney Bin, because they're both really awesome runners of all the Dead Space games. And just keep on killing it. You'll get to see the new innovations as they come out. It'd be super rad.
Yeah, we're trying to work on a chapter 3 skip.
Yeah, it saves about a minute. Sub-hour this year, we're calling it. Got like 5 minutes to go.
All right. Thanks for having us.
That's about it.
Thanks so much for having us.
Yeah. Thank you so much.
Well, thank you so much for such a fantastic Dead Space 2 run. I'm with some of the donators where I cannot play a scary game to save my life, but I love watching them speedrun. So really appreciated that. I know there was a lot of love coming through for you in the community.